What's up, guys? PoliticsGaming here, and today we're doing a brand new video about Geo-Political Simulator 5. However, we have a surprise announcement here. The 2026 edition has been released. However, we are in for a change of plans. You know, this one kind of came out of nowhere, but there's a lot of explanation that has to be done about what the difference is between 2025 and 2026. What I'm going to go ahead and straight up tell you right off the bat, just cutting right to the chase, this is 2025 with a coat of paint. This is going to be just basically the game took forever to come out to Steam. I mean, we probably would have had this months ago if they didn't run into the issue that I'm about to get into. So, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to see more videos like this, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss anything whenever I do make it to the channel. Other than that, let's go ahead and get into what changed here. So, Geopolitical Simulator 2026 is going to be 2025 with a coat of paint, as I said before. So basically what this means is that this is going to be exactly what everyone has told you that every edition is, except that it's a reality here. So disclaimer right here, right off the bat, this game is a work of fiction created for entertainment and educational purposes. This game includes political and social themes presented in a satirical and fictional context. It is not intended to comment on, defame, or commercially exploit any real person or organization. So if we go ahead and open this up, you can see some changes here compared to the 2025 to the 2024 and 2025 edition. So you can see that each country is now properly marked here, and we're going to go ahead and open up a game just to kind of get into the nitty-gritty, like exactly what is different with this. So as you can see, what we have here is that we have the 2025 edition and we have the 2026 edition. So we can start off playing in 2025, or we can play it with 2026. As the rest of the year, this is, since it is, you know, the end of 2025, we have the ability to start off in 2026, and as elections continue throughout the world, then updates will continue to come out for the game in order to update us, you know, to the real parties that are involved, everything like that. Now, whenever I say real parties, we do have a change here that I think is going to disappoint a lot of you. John Cooper, Andrei Petrenko, Keith Dixon. Who else do we have? Javier Olmedo. One more. Let's look at one more. Russia? Who do we have? Valissi Slutin? Nope, you're wrong. We have Dmitry Gripich. I have no idea how to say that last name. I probably skewered it. What is going on here? Why do we not have Ronald Trump, Zelensky, whatever Keir Starmer was, or Valissi Slutin? Valissi Slutin has been a part of the game since, you know, some of the earliest parts of the Geopolitical Simulator franchise. I mean, Putin has been in here long enough to where pretty much every single edition you have ever played of Geopolitical Simulator, aside from whenever Dmitry Medvedev was in office back in 2013, or what was it? Not 2013, it was like 2011. Like Rulers of Nations was a very last time that we saw a different Russian president. Other than that, basically what we have is that we don't have the 3D models of the real presidents anymore. We have some of these things that look very vaguely similar to real life presidents. We have Zelensky that looks almost kind of like a Zelensky. Doesn't really look like Keir Starmer or Donald Trump. Vaguely looks like Maduro and Putin. Why did they do this? Why did they take away, you know, one of the staples of the franchise that has been, you know, interesting to say the least in some gameplay scenarios? So because of the Steam release, Steam apparently stopped Everson from releasing this game onto the platform because of the 3D models. Because Ronald Trump and Valissi Slutin were basically vaguely similar to those that are in office right now, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. apparently there was a legal issue that was raised by Steam, and as far as I know, Eversim tried to fight this, and I guess this is why it's taken so long, because they tried to make it work to where they didn't have to remove the 3D models, but it looks like that it just was not able to work. And so what happened is that they just had to remove them entirely. I have a quote from Pericles. He's the guy that runs the Discord server that we're all a part of. So, first of all, the Steam release is imminent. If all goes well, it should happen today. And then basically he said that you have the opportunity to play to both 2025 and 2026. And then so the 2026 scenarios include updated data, including the results of this year's elections. Elections taking place between now and the end of the year will be updated later. But on a less positive note, and this is what he had to say about the Steam release. The delay in the Steam validation process mainly stems from this. The approval could only be obtained by removing realistic faces of the characters in overly similar names. A legal issue was raised by Steam, and it was indispensable to comply with these requirements. So basically, Steam somehow, and I'm actually wanting to email Steam at some point and maybe get a quote from them, or maybe someone beats me to that, then I can put that in a later video. Basically what happened is that Steam basically was not comfortable. I guess so many releases before didn't really cause an issue, but maybe because of recent political events that have been taking place, it possibly has something to do with that. I mean, the political situation now has just gotten to a point where, even Eversim has to take out, vaguely similar names and the 3D models of the heads of states. So this is a downgrade in terms of realism in the game, making it our own world. The idea was that you get to play as the real world leaders, as the real world. And the reason I'm kind of going into so much detail about this is because, I've made videos about the 2025 edition before. The biggest difference with the 2026 edition is that this is literally just taking out the 3D models and then updating the information for the current year, for 2026. While I load this game, what is you guys' thoughts on this? Do you think that it's a huge loss to replayability for this game to see the 3D models being taken away? And what actually gets me about it is that we have other games on Steam right now, like Supreme Ruler, where it's not even vaguely similar names or vaguely similar pictures. It's the literal actual picture of Donald Trump, of Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Fumio Kishida, everything like that on these on the presidential portraits on Supreme Ruler. So what is the difference? And this is them. Eversim is basically directly saying that Steam is the one that stopped this from happening. Is it maybe the scenarios that you can put yourself in Geo-Political Simulator 5? Like, why did Steam decide now, of this time, of right now, why did Steam decide now to say, hey, we don't want that in your game, whenever there are other titles in the Steam library, like Supreme Ruler, that do the same thing, except it's not even vaguely similar. It's the exact same picture. What sense does that make? I will be reaching out to Steam directly and then maybe just saying, like, hey, like, this game had these things, for so many years before. Why is it changing now? Other features that we have to talk about, it's like I said, it's 2025 with the Code of Paint. And this is the first time I'm ever telling you this, because every edition of Geo-Political Simulator has always brought new features into the fold. We have immigration, we have artillery, we have, every single edition has always brought something into the fold to play. Biggest thing about this is that I think the biggest thing about this is that, if you have not been playing the 2024 or 2025 edition of Geo-Political Simulator, biggest thing is that this is continuously being supported. If you have played 2017, 18, 19, 21, 2, or 3, you will remember throughout the entire life cycle of Geopolitical Simulator 4, there was always a handful of updates that came out, and then that was it. So, I mean, like I said, what is the difference between 2025 and 2026? There's not. I mean, like I said, there is the bug fixes, and I mean, I'm gonna list the bug fixes in here. I'm gonna go over just a couple of them. We have added the constitutional rules of executive appointment to democracy level calculations. We have fixing the issues related to strong alcohol tax. We have the adjustment of France and Japan diplomatic relations, fixing of train animations, fix the time freeze after a region gains independence and triggers specific actions. They fixed the NAN issue on voting on a reform proposal in Germany, fixed energy info panel showing incorrect data, erroneous display and product cost panel in company mode. But it's a lot of different bug fixes, but the biggest thing too is that this is a continuation of the cycle that we wanted, have always wanted out of any geopolitical game. I mean, I personally like the direction that Eversim is going to. Now, if you're expecting this, that, you know, oh, like, why aren't they going to give us, you know, new features or anything like that? I mean, I feel like they were kind of forced into the 2026 edition because of how long it was taking Steam to validate the release of the game. And because of that, I'm still kind of like wondering, because it's the new edition, I mean, could we see some new features being added into the game? That way, you know, it makes sense. That would be pretty much unprecedented. Maybe as we go, we see, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 different major additions being added to the 2026 edition. Because I feel like that saying, you know, oh, it's the 2026 edition, but specifically you're only getting updated data. I feel like, you know, those who are buying the 2026 edition should have something new. And especially if they can market that and say, hey, like, you know, we're going to update this with a couple of new features as the progress of this update goes forward throughout the year 2026. I feel like that would draw a lot of people into the game, especially as those updates come around. So, you know, people buying it now, if you have the 2024 or 2025 edition, you can buy this and then upgrade, or if you have the previous 2024 and 2025 edition, you can upgrade to the 2026 edition. So I feel like it's beneficial for those who bought in before and then are upgrading, or that are just now buying it and maybe were put off by 2025 or 2024. I think it would be interesting to see saying, hey, you know, we're going to release like this feature in like Q2 or something like that of 2026. That way it's just not a coat of paint. I feel like there's a lot to build off of this, and then once it's ready, they can just release it, and then just that could attract a lot of people into the game, especially around those update times. Other than that, I mean, like, you know, we have new heads of states. We have the Japanese Prime Minister over here, Yoko Hamoto. She is $6.93 million rich. At least I had a game going as Japan, and that actually kind of made me mad because of how much money she did not have. But otherwise, you know, we have the civil servants, we have the technological transition here. We have things like tourism. We have the tourism sector that was added in the 2025 edition. So like I said, all of the features are the same from 2025, but it's updating you to the end of the year. And as well, we are continuously doing the cycle of the game. So we're going to continue to get updates through regularly. And I'm pretty excited to see that, because I was a little worried because there hasn't been an update in a minute. But other than that, you know, what are you guys' thoughts here? I've been focusing way more on the Steam validation, mainly because that was the biggest issue and possibly the most controversial choice of the 2026 edition. Because if you look at it from a practical standpoint, what it's going to look like is that this is a downgrade. You're basically getting no more realistic faces in the game. But on the other hand, you know, you're continuing to get a development cycle here. So you're losing some but you're continuing to get these updates as the game progresses. So you're going to find these bugs, you're going to report them, and then in the next update, it's like it's a weird like trade-off here. So we're losing 3D faces, but then the development cycle of this game is going to continue on. So at least the game is not going to die. It's not just, you know, all of a sudden we're going to the 2026 edition. At least I don't know. It's kind of weird to try to explain this out loud. I'm not even trying to find a way to spin it or anything like that. I think it's an interesting choice, but I also kind of see why they were forced into this, because I feel like Steam is more at fault from at least what I've been hearing, everything that I've heard by this point. It seems that Steam kind of forced them to do this because of how long it took them. And then I even told Pericles at some point, I was just like, hey, like, I mean, what is going to happen with the Steam release? Because it's like, you're making the 2025 edition, but then it's like, you're going to release it in 2026 at this point. It is at the end of an era for Geo-Political Simulator. The 3D faces, the Valisi Slutin, Jack Ohama, Ronald Trump, they were basically like very iconic to the community. So it's going to be sad seeing those 3D faces go. I hope at some point Steam, you know, comes to their senses or something like that, and, you know, releases or allows Eversim to update it back and get those 3D faces back on the map. But maybe Steam is... something has to be happening with Steam to where they are basically like, we do not want to take this risk with this game specifically because of the 3D faces that have to do with real life people in the political world. So I will be reaching out to Steam at some point, and then I'll get back to you guys if I'm able to get an answer on that. But other than that, that is the video. I mean, like I said, not a lot of big changes here. 2026 edition is out. We don't have 30 faces anymore, but we are continuing to have a development cycle with the 2026 edition, and we will continue to get updates for this game. Other than that, guys, let me know down in the comments below what you guys think about this. Do you like this decision? I mean, personally, I feel like this brings a lot of lore potential to the game. You know, it's like, instead of, you know, unrealistically watching the United States get a military coup because Kamala Harris won the election or something like that because she didn't fund the military or some weird stuff that you would be seeing in this game. Then, you know, John Cooper, who you have never heard of in your life, is going to be the one to take over. Or, you know, I feel like it's our own world, but it's like, you know, a different range of politicians that we've never had to deal with before, and then they can make their own story in the lore of any gameplay that you do. So, you know, coming over to Spain, you have Javier Alonso, you know, could have a little spat with John Cooper or something like that. I think it really kind of showcases some of the potential of the game, but like I said, it is the end of an era. I don't particularly like that they got rid of them, but if they didn't have a choice, they didn't have a choice. Otherwise, we weren't going to see a Steam release at all. But other than that, I will go ahead and leave you guys to it in the comments. Tell me your guys' thoughts about this. But other than that, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to see more content like this, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss anything whenever I do make it to the channel. And I do have an announcement here. I will be making further moves on the economic tutorial, which will be updated for Geo-Political Simulator 5. So I will shoot to get that out within the next couple of months. It is a huge project, so it is going to take a little bit of time. I will say, give me a couple of months and you should see that tutorial coming out very soon. Other than that, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. So you guys want to see more content like this, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss anything whenever I do make it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching this with me, and take care.